And I think that quick to kind of move to the point of when people say what is different about this, we're saying, well, what we're describing is something is working in line with a system that's always been there for people. It's just been misunderstood. Understanding it on a piece of paper is one thing, and us having a conversation and describing it is one thing. But if the person doesn't start to embody that and take it on for themselves, then very little changes. And I think part of that is that, you know, people that are actually looking for a solution, there's a lot of them out there. They're open to it. So I think, you know, if you're open to change, that's a great spot to be in. It's, you know, if you're stressed out all the time and you're convinced that to get results you have to be stressed, even though you see world champions like Usain Bolt having a chat with the volunteers 5 seconds before he's going into the blocks, then, you know, maybe this is not for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is, you know, one thing to recognize is it can often seem like, you know, that the truth is occurring somewhere other than inside our own heads, because even if people are telling you the truth about something of the nature of things, if you don't believe that to be true yourself, then you're going to experience that to be false in your own mind. The same as if someone's giving you a straight answer to a question, and if you're doubting that or you're skeptical, then the straight answer isn't what you're going to hear. You're going to hear the possibility of doubt. So that variability, when it's pointed out, you can start to see that that's happening within us. It's not actually the reality of what might be happening in the moment.
Yeah, that reminds me of something that I had with a client recently, where she's done absolutely great. She's gone from being very stressed and being overwhelmed by that stress to being able to be stressed at times, but realize there's nothing she can do. There's no point in building up and ruminating on that. It's gonna settle naturally, and that's had a big impact on her. And she's the amount of time she's spent being stressed has come down massively. You can see all the different ideas and the different techniques that people say, because she came in and said, well, what about this time my friend said that I need to go back to a particular time in my life where this stress was triggered and this problem began, you know? So she wasn't saying it was a workload problem. She was trying to say, well, it was something that happened in the past. There was something that triggered this. And that's why I find it struggle to collaborate effectively at work. And that's why my productivity has dropped and I'm not enjoying work as much. It's because of something that happened in the past. What's your take on that? I think that's a good topic for people.
Yeah, I mean, it's a whole can of worms, that really. I think that the short answer is that once you understand about how memory is constructed, that memory only exists in your own mind, that's just a thought. You can't actually go back to the past. It doesn't exist. And when we're walking around day to day, you know, you can even forget that past for long periods of time of what might have happened or your interpretation of what happened. And it's only when it comes back into your awareness that you start to see it as real again or happening all over again. When you start to see that that's just thought as well, and it is a memory carried through so-called time. You don't have to do anything with it, you know. And it's confusing sometimes because you can see that when you go off into a daydream about something, somehow you can recognize that and say, I'm dreaming about being on the beach or going on holiday somewhere, I need a break. And yet that seems, we know that's fantasy. But when we're thinking about something that happened 10, 15, 20 years ago or more, that can seem not fantasy. That can seem real.
That can seem real for people, definitely 100%. And I think that's where this comes into its own, because there's no thought in the past. Once you get a sense of this system and get to understand it for yourself, there's nothing in the past, there's nothing in the future. So if you've got a deadline that you're working to, like we said previously, and you've feeling massive amounts of stress and pressure to meet that deadline, you can see that you're not at that deadline. You've created a future image of what it might be like if you don't miss that deadline. and then you've built on that to look at the consequences. Well, what's my boss going to say? What are the shareholders going to think? What's my suppliers going to think if we don't meet this? Whatever it is, and that's all happened while you're working on the project. So equally, you can do that in the past and think about, how you lost a supplier in the past, how so and so stressed you out in the past, and it's carried through time. But we're just saying it's all down to where you're at in the moment, and you're never anywhere but in that moment. So the past doesn't only exist as a thought. That the future is the same. So we're talking about right now what people are going through in terms of stress.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's nothing, we're not saying that there isn't consequences of potential actions or, scenario planning. There's no value in that. There certainly is. It helps you shape what you should do and potential paths a project could take or an approach could take. But what we're talking about really is that when you start imagining all those scenarios and then they seem real to you and kind of some sort of panic sets in or irrational concern that doesn't seem irrational,
Yeah.
then that's when it's nice to have people around you that can understand what's going on and just gently remind you